Many people came to this mysterious and terrifying place not to have fun, but to have a sad moment in their lives, because in this place they were trying to find a job. Despite the busyness of the place, one recruiting place was empty for some reason, and no one lined up for this employer. The blonde man was indignant that since there was no one in this place, then it would be better if the neighboring booths were expanded so that people wouldn't crowd in. He felt that this company was being too irresponsible and was just taking up space, and after all, work was already hard to find. This caused the guy behind him to pay attention to this empty space. As it turned out, it wasn't empty, and there was a girl sitting there. He tried to read the job title, but that only added more questions to his mind. The guy couldn't understand why there was no line for this company. As he looked at the lines at the booths with jobs in the neighborhood, he only disappointedly remarked that his turn at the other places wouldn't come up until tomorrow at the earliest. Many were willing to fight for the job, lowering their value to be a more attractive option for the employer. Some were willing to work 10 hours a day with 1 day off a week. Some were even asking to be hired since they wouldn't have to pay much. Someone was even willing to pay a fee for the internship period. The guy sighed disappointedly, imagining how hard it would be for him to compete with people like that. In the end, he decided to try his luck where none of the applicants even approached. At the table, a girl sat bored and looked at her phone. As soon as the guy approached the employer's desk, he passed as if through some invisible barrier. The girl immediately hid her phone and smiled at the sight of the guy. It could now be seen that the employer had his own uniqueness. The entire employer's cubicle was as if separated from the rest of the room by some kind of barrier. No one even noticed that the guy had approached the employer and that there was an employer at all. The girl asked the guy to tell briefly about himself. The guy said with a smile that his name was Yan Wenhan. He said that he had finished his studies in the construction department at the Polytechnic with a grade point average of 3 whole and 56 hundredths. In school, he received a scholarship. He considered his strengths to be kindness and sociability. The girl immediately asked the guy if he had loyalty and hard work. Yan Wenhan informs with a strained smile that he has such qualities. Yan thought that the girl thought his resume was insufficient. He was even upset, although he already knew that his chances of finding a good job were initially low. Besides, other companies were also doing a thorough screening process. Others had too many candidates, so he was unlikely to find a job there too. He sighed heavily. The guy approached the employer just to try his luck, because suddenly he would be hired, and so the cultural company was not even related to his work. In the end, he decided to give up in search of a good job. However, contrary to his thoughts, the girl took another look at his resume and smilingly announced that he was hired. Yan Wenhan obviously didn't expect this turn of events. Maybe he came to the job search to find an excuse why he didn't have a job and was suddenly hired. The girl informed him that the talent the guy had was exactly the talent they had been looking for a long time. The guy was surprised as he had not noticed any talent behind him. He couldn't believe it, as 99 out of 100 candidates fit the exact same resume. The guy was even about to look for video cameras as he thought he was on some TV show. The girl winked at the guy and once again remarked with a smile that he had an amazing talent. She offered the guy a monthly salary of 20,000 yuan, as well as insurance and 20 days of annual paid vacation. The company also offered career advancement opportunities, bonuses and generous bonuses at the end of the year. All that went through the guy's mind after that speech was the sum of 20,000 yuan a month. Yan Wenhan was too worried when he heard what kind of amazing conditions the company was offering. In the current times, houses didn't sell well, and civil engineering graduates couldn't even find a job carrying bricks on the construction site. And here, all of a sudden, he was being offered the most luxurious conditions in the market. Seeing the pensive and seemingly upset guy, the girl could not understand why the guy did not immediately agree. She even thought that she had offered too small a salary. The girl had done research before leaving the valley, so she assumed that such working conditions would satisfy 99% of the graduates. She was faced with the dilemma of whether to raise the salary higher or leave it at the same level, as raising the salary would look too suspicious. Yan Wenhan didn't even look at the girl. He was pondering whether the girl was a fraud who was going to sell his kidneys and other organs. The guy just couldn't believe that he was so lucky in life. After all, he had never even won anything in the lottery. He was about to get up and refuse as the girl quickly noticed it. It surprised her that the guy was going to run away after she was interested in him. She looked into the guy's eyes and she extremely disliked the expression in the guy's eyes. She thought there was something wrong with this case. Finally, making up his mind, the guy stood up and apologized and said that he remembered he still had things to do. However, as soon as he turned his back, he felt an incredibly frightening aura. Turning around, he saw that the girl had a strange glow coming from her left eye. The girl told the guy to return and sit back down. A moment later, Yan Wenhan was once again sitting on the chair in front of the girl. Looking at his feet, he was startled as he found that his legs were not moving. The girl once again greeted the guy with a smile and asked for a moment to convince the guy to accept this job offer. Yan Wenhan was now sure that this was some kind of fraud. The girl started to take off her shoes. She said that the conditions might have seemed unrealistic, but assured that the company's details could be easily checked. After that, she got on the table and told me that you can find information about the company on Chichacha. Briefly, Chichacha is a sort of database of Chinese companies, and it contains records of over 100 million companies. She also said that the company has the support of the government. The girl with a smile assured the guy that the honesty of their enterprise is guaranteed and asked him not to worry about it. After reading a little bit of information about the company, Yan Wenhan thought that everything looked like a legitimate company with no offenses. The company had a large registered capital and 15 years of history. However, it still seemed strange to him because he was in civil engineering and it didn't fit his specialization at all, so he didn't understand why he was chosen. As if sensing the guy's doubts, the girl explains to him that she understands his doubts about the job. She informs him that the company is promoting a tourist project, and therefore they need someone to look after the construction of a new recreation facility. They don't have the right person, and they can't bring in someone from outside, so they set about finding an employee. After a bit of thinking, the guy doesn't realize at all that he was fooled and thinks that the girl's words make sense. The girl proceeds to convince the guy by telling him that she has scrutinized his resume. She even thinks a guy's resume is differentiated from the rest by the fact that everything is written honestly and down to earth, without exaggeration. The company was not short of money, and the company's philosophy is not to exploit workers. Work is supposed to be fun after all. The girl even reports that even the janitors in their company earn 20,000 yuan a month. After the obvious noodling in the form of information that is verified pretty quickly, the guy decides to believe that a rich company can throw money around by taking care of employees in this way. The girl adds that the company is a bit superstitious and hires the guy because his phone number ends with 888. The company considers this a very auspicious sign. Yan Wenhan is obviously willing to believe any nonsense to get a job and doesn't wonder how such a company hasn't gone bankrupt yet. He decides to believe that mysticism is the pinnacle of science and that everyone believes in luck. So he thought he was lucky for the first time in his life. After these first-class arguments that somehow miraculously convince the guy, he takes the job. Yan Wenhan is a little surprised at how quickly the boss signs his contract. However, the girl tries to justify that having met talent, one should not hesitate but act. After signing the contract, the girl welcomes the new employee to the unbreakable cultural creativity company. Yan Wenhan promises to try her best in her new company. However, the girl remarked with a smile that it will be enough if the guy doesn't run away. This moment puzzled the guy. The girl goes on to praise the guy that he is incredibly talented, so he should be able to handle it. She asks the new employee to pack his things and start work from the next Monday. The company had already booked a train ticket for the employee, and someone from the company was to meet him at the station. Yan Wenhan continued to be surprised by such rapidly developing events. The guy tensed up again as everything was too suspicious, especially the fact that the company had prepared in advance. The girl again tries to dispel the fears of the new employee. She informs him that while drawing up the contract, they used his data to buy a train ticket. She also says that if the guy is interested in something, all the details are already on his cell phone. After that, Yan Wenhan asked if he could go. This time, the girl no longer objected to him leaving. Yan Wenhan left the girl with the contract in hand. Yan Wenhan's starting date according to the contract was February 28th, 2024 year. The term of the contract, 2 years. However, as soon as the guy left, the girl's left eye once again shone with a red light. Yan Wenhan did not notice the main catch of his contract. The contract term instantly changed under the influence of the girl's powers, and the real contract term appeared. The contract was indefinite, not 2 years as the guy thought. The next day, Yan Wenhan went to the East Station of City C. He told his mum and dad on the phone that he had found a job and that it paid 5,000 a month, and also told his parents that he was currently on his way to work. The son decided not to tell his parents all the details because the parents would go straight to the police. The mum was so relieved that the son had finally found a job. She encouraged him and asked him to do his best, as it was very difficult to find a job nowadays. The son asked that mum not to worry about him. He hurried to catch the train and said goodbye to his mum. Yan Wenhan was once again surprised when the information board displayed his train going to the indestructible valley. The train's departure was at 11:11 p.m. from platform 11. The guy was puzzled as this train even had its own station. He even felt as if he was in some kind of movie. Today he had just forgotten to grab his glasses and the zipper-like scar on his forehead. After getting on the train, Yan Wenhan decided to take a nap. He was already looking forward to his life as a corporate slave with a certain amount of sarcasm. While the guy was sleeping, the train was traveling at full speed to its destination. One night later, the train arrived at the Unbreakable station. The train informed the passengers to get ready to leave the carriage. Leaving the train carriage and stepping into the station, Yan Wenhan noticed how lively the area was and how rich the neighborhood was. The guy wasn't too happy to find this out, as the housing prices were surely high in this neighborhood, and he even forgot to ask if the company provided a dormitory. However, something confused him, and that was how the people were dressed. He even assumed that there was a cosplay festival going on nearby. Yan Wenhan walked up to the signboard with the name of the train station and looked around. He had been told when he got a job that someone from the company would meet him at the station. At the same moment, a girl was holding a picture of Yan Wenhan and looking around at the arriving passengers. Among the crowd of people, she easily managed to find Yan Wenhan, who stood out from the other people. Hearing the sound of approaching footsteps towards him, the guy looked up. However, in the same second, the girl jumped onto his neck and hugged him. She was glad that her senior brother had finally arrived. Yan Wenhan's face turned red at such an act by the girl. He reckoned that the representative of the cultural company was indeed blazing with enthusiasm. Despite this, Yan Wenhan believes that one should not underestimate the willpower of a college student who has been tempered for 4 years. The guy informs the girl that she is overly enthusiastic about these events. He's all flushed from such an embrace. Guy tries to keep his cool, remember everything he's been taught, and stay calm. To calm down, Yan Wenhan even began to list the chemical elements, remembering all the formulas he knew and so on, all to distract himself from his thoughts. Finally, letting go of the guy's neck, the girl reports that she was happy to see the guy. She also noted that the guy seemed to be having trouble breathing. In fact, she was so happy that her master was able to fool someone and that they had found the person who would be their babysitter. Being the eldest, Yan Wenhan immediately introduced himself to the girl by saying his name and also asked the girl what her name was. The girl informed that her name is Yu Xin. She can also be called Xin Xin or Little Fish. Yu Xin smiles and informs that cats like fish. Are human ears fake or something? Hearing all this, Yan Wenhan decides to call the girl a little fish. He was completely serious as this was his job and he hoped he would hit it off with the girl. Shaking the guy's hand, Yu Xin is so happy and she is sure that they will be able to work together. The girl calls the guy her senior brother and informs him that the master asked her to escort the guy to the company. Yan Wenhan definitely wanted to find a job, and it seems that's why he subconsciously plays the fool. He is surprised that the company is treated like in the anime, senior brother, master. However, he decided that this was to be expected from a company with such a name. Yan Wenhan had heard that employees in some establishments even dressed like in anime. He thought the cosplayer girls were adorable, and no one would find it strange that they dressed like that. As they walked, Yan noticed the ears on the girl's head and how well made they were. He wondered how those ears stayed on her head, since it seems like the cat ears grow right out of the girl's head. While the guy was immersed in his thoughts, Yu Xin led him to the golden scooter. Yan Wenhan started to look at the golden scooter. He couldn't stop wondering, because the golden part of the scooter didn't look like paint, and the golden scooter looked very realistic. as if it was really made of gold. He had seen not a few scooters before, but such a model was unfamiliar to him, so he assumed it was handmade. Yu Xin says that she never learned how to drive a car, so she didn't have a driver's license, and since the other older siblings were busy, the guy would have to ride with the girl on this small electric scooter. Yan Wenhan reassures the girl as he doesn't mind such a trip at all, and that this way he can see the city on the way. He even naively thinks that he has such a kind co-worker. Looking at the girl, the guy is filled with confidence that the company has a great atmosphere. He naively thought that for once in his life he was lucky, and that he had a very good job. Yu Xin got on the electric scooter and then called Yan Wenhan to sit behind her. After the guy got on the golden electric scooter, they rode to the company. Yan Wenhan noticed that it was quite an unusual experience for him to ride a scooter behind a girl's back. He didn't know what he should grab onto to keep from falling off the scooter. It seemed to him that taking the girl by the waist might not be quite right. Besides, he probably didn't want any lawsuits. However, as if sensing his apprehension, Yu Xin turned to him and asked the guy why he wasn't holding on to her to avoid falling off the scooter. She subtly informed him that if he didn't hold on to her, he might fall on the way to the mountains because they were about to take off. Still not understanding the meaning of the words said, the guy cheerfully informed her that he had good balance and would not fall. Suddenly he realized that the girl had said they were going to take off, and at the same moment the scooter started to take off. The scooter lifted off the ground and flew into the mountains at breakneck speed, as if they were on some kind of airplane. Yan Wenhan immediately grabbed Yu Xin's shoulders, his head tilted back, and he saw what looked like some stars from behind the scooter. He couldn't understand what they were. His first thought was that they were some particles of light. Looking down, he was even more scared because they started to deviate more and more from the original route. The guy remembered that the girl had mentioned the mountains, which meant that maybe she wanted to take him somewhere in the middle of nowhere to have his organs removed. Yan Wenhan was about to cry because he thought that the villains from northern Myanmar had gotten to this place, which meant that he might lose his most precious possession at the end of his trip. Yu Xin was humming happily and didn't seem to be paying attention at all. The guy realized that he had to act. He was going to jump off this scooter and escape. Starting his report from 3 as they started to land, he jumped off when the countdown reached 1. While he was in the jump, he was even glad that his escape had gone well. However, a moment later, something confused him. As it turned out, Yu Xin had caught the fugitive and he was in her arms. Yu Xin admits that the master told her that Yan Wenhan might try to escape, and so she advised her not to let the duck fly away. Only now has the guy realized what an idiot he is, and that he was fooled and now his end has come. Yu Xin informs him that in this place there is no village nearby, no store with telephone, no bus stop, no railroad. Even a hitchhiker was impossible to catch. Yu Xin advised the senior brother to give up, as there was no way for him to escape. The guy cried. He asked to be kept alive and allowed his kidneys to be taken. Yu Xin was puzzled when the guy mentioned giving permission to take his kidneys. Yan Wenhan asks for mercy, as he needs to take care of his parents and he hasn't had time to have children of his own yet. So he begs and tearfully asks for the girl to let him go. The girl thinks that the senior brother seems to have misunderstood something. She asks that he stop thinking about leaving. Yu Xin informed that the senior brother signed a contract, and according to the contract, he belongs to the master alive. Dead, he also belongs to the master. If the senior brother decides to break the contract, he will face a fate worse than death. Yan Wenhan notes that he is not running away already, so he asks the girl to let him go. The girl immediately lets the guy go, and he falls painfully to the ground. Yu Xin is happy about this turn of events and asks that senior brother keep his word. Yan Wenhan is not a stupid guy. He was glad that the girl fell for his words. However, if he didn't run away now, he might not get this opportunity again. He decided to send the treaty to hell. After all, what could these people do when he ran away? Since he was a modern student, he figured he could handle any murky scheme. He called out to the girl, calling her a little fish. After that, the guy pointed to the sky, as if he saw a flying pig there. As she looked up into the sky, the girl was surprised, for the spirit of the pig had not yet learned to fly. While she was looking at the sky and didn't understand where the flying pig was, the guy ran away from her. Yan Wenhan believed that strength could be overcome, poverty could be gotten out of, but he wanted his kidneys to stay with him. Not finding any pigs in the sky, the girl turned around to inform her senior brother. At that moment, she saw Yan Wenhan running away from her. The girl realized that all this time she had been distracted by something that didn't exist. Yu Xin is outraged by this action of the guy since her senior brother is bad and lied to her. He is surprised by the fact that the girl is involved in fraud but still remained so innocent. Running away, he advises the girl, if she gets the chance, to run away too. Yan Wenhan assumed that since the girl had a scooter, she could catch up with him. He even somehow thought that the girl wouldn't be able to catch him in the field since the scooter wouldn't pass through there, although he must have forgotten that he had flown the scooter recently. At this point, the girl caught up to the guy and kicked him in the back, as she wanted to punish him for lying to her. The guy let out a painful groan as if his kidneys had been hit by this blow. Suddenly, a system window appeared in front of him. The system showed a notification that a physical impact had been recorded. After that, the system activated. Yan Wenhan was surprised that something strange appeared in front of him. He reached for the system, and the system showed that he had met a girl, Yu Xin, today. The girl's age was 16 years old. Affiliation, Spirit Cat Clan. Special skill, Enchantment, Level 5. Stamina, Level 5. Strength, Level 3. Agility, Level 5. Spirit Power, Level 5. Familiarity score, 0. Evaluation, outspoken and quick to act. The guy noticed that the girl was rather fast and also reckless. As the guy emitted his spirit, the girl complained that she may have kicked him too hard. Yu Xin notes with a smile that she wasn't aiming where to kick, so she may have hit the guy's head. After a while, the house of the so-called company Yan Wenhan had signed a contract with. He was lying on the bed, and sitting next to him on the chair was the same legendary conwoman who had fooled him. The guy finally started to regain consciousness and opened his left eye. Suddenly, he jumped up abruptly and sat down on the bed. He held his head with his right hand. Just after waking up, he heard someone talking to him with a sweet voice. He was surprised, for in front of him was the very girl who had forced him into this contract. Looking at the girl, he recognized her name as Yu Wanning. According to the system, she was the master of Wujin Valley. The system's evaluation of the girl, a heartless demon capable of doing anything except paying her wages on time. All of the girl's other details were not known to the system. Yan Wenhan only resented the fact that even the wages would not be paid, as he immediately covered his own mouth with his hands. Looks like Yu Wanning is also delaying the payment of wages. The guy mentally complained to his mom that not only had he fallen for the scammers, but he had also fallen into another world. Nothing good was waiting for him in this world. Yu Wanning resents why the guy in the job placement program wasn't told about the duties of the workers. The girl decides that it doesn't matter, since colleges nowadays work terribly. The guy is taken aback by the girl's statement. Yu Wanning decides to skip the small talk and get straight to the point. She informs that the employee can call them all cultivators who live in seclusion. The Cultivators Association monitors all cultivators, so they are not allowed to use magic in the human world. In the cultivator world, there is a special public relations department. If there are accidents, the department deals with scientific explanations for supernatural occurrences. That was why most ordinary people had never heard of cultivators. This information didn't really appeal to the guy anyway. Yu Wanning also informs him that their company is legit and they don't need fraudulent schemes or organ trafficking. Therefore, she assures the guy that his life and property are completely safe. She explains that their company is unique, but all the benefits and bonuses are quite real. Yan Wenhan doesn't really trust the girl and the company anymore. Yu Wanning reminds him that the guy can look up all the public information about the company on Chichacha. The girl informs him that the guy will be working as senior brother. To make it clear, she notes that senior brother is some sort of CEO. Yu Wanning notes that the guy didn't end up in this place by chance, as she was careful in choosing the candidate. She notes that the guy isn't an ordinary person either, and he has unawakened abilities. It's probably because he was able to spot her and get through the barrier of getting a job. After that, she exhaled smoke directly into his face and asked if he had any questions. Waving the smoke away and coughing, the guy agrees to accept that he has awakened some abilities and that there are cultivators in the world. Despite all this, he couldn't fully understand everything. Yu Wanning notices that the guy is brave and smart despite all the pressure they put on him. Therefore, she doesn't understand what else he hasn't been able to understand. In his thoughts, Yan Wenhan confesses that he doesn't really understand anything. Why he became a senior brother and about some abilities. Everything seemed fine, but he continued to feel like a corporate slave. He was shaking when he decided to ask his question, which other than during the job interview, the girl had never mentioned in any other way. Yan Wenhan wondered the most important question for him, whether the girl would delay his salary. Naive fool, of course the master will lie, and then will not pay as soon as it is time to pay. Yan Wenhan, the boy who survives. Yan Wenhan repeatedly wondered if the girl would delay the payment of his salary. Yu Wanning decides to show surprise when she hears the question asked to her. She remarks that they are a legitimate company and such companies would never delay wages. She even thinks it's rude to ask such questions and ask the guy not to do that anymore. Yan Wenhan didn't really believe in the girl's words because if what he saw in front of him about the girl was a manifestation of his ability, then the ability can hardly be wrong. Besides, the guy noticed that the girl looked somehow suspicious after the question he asked her. Yu Wanning reminds the guy to come early tomorrow as they wanted to throw a small welcome party for him before starting work. She was going to introduce Yan Wenhan to a few of her personal students since they would be co-workers in the future. After hitting him on the head with a pipe, the girl remarks that a guy like senior brother should set a good example for everyone. Yu Wanning informs that there are clothes prepared for the guy in the dormitory from which he must choose what to wear. After that, she stated that he could go and she was going to lie down to rest. Yan Wenhan thought that the employer's preparations showed thorough, so he wanted to see if everything would remain like this on payday. After that, the guy went to the dormitory. The next day, he changed his clothes and sat down to reflect on his current situation. He was glad that despite the difficult situation in the labor market, he had managed to officially get a job. He decided that from now on he would work hard to surpass his colleagues. However, he was curious about one thing. After all, he had just joined the company, so how could he become a senior brother right away? His first assumption was that he was a senior brother because he was the oldest in age. Not being able to think of anything better, the guy decided to check everything with the system. He also wanted to make sure he named everyone correctly, since making a good first impression is very important. Using the systems, he looked at the information on the two girls he knew. A cosplay enthusiast with cat ears, Yu Xin. A lover of drinking and smoking and wearing glasses, Boss Yu Wannings. The guy obviously knows how to find something positive, even in the most dire situation. He noticed that his current situation was as if he was like a chosen hero from the short stories. Guy was glad that he had gotten a system that only he had, because now his marvelous journey was just beginning. Yan Wenhan felt like Goku from Dragon Ball and thought that he had to save the world. Now he could raise levels and kill monsters, and he could also gain financial freedom. He was so happy that he couldn't hide his smile. However, at this moment, Yu Wanning came up to him and wondered why the guy was smiling so stupidly. The girl crouched down on the floor and immediately demanded that the guy bring her a lighter and also brought her a bottle from the cupboard. Yan Wenhan couldn't understand when the girl came, for he didn't see her enter the house through the door. The guy went to the closet to get the bottle. He couldn't understand why the girl was acting like this. Yan Wenhan brought the bottle out of the cupboard and the girl opened the bottle cap with one swipe. Yu Wanning immediately started from the bottle. The guy wondered why his boss was drinking in the morning and how healthy it was. Suddenly, Yu Wanning reported that someone was walking towards them. The guy turned around to see who was coming, and at that moment, many snakes rushed towards him. Yan Wenhan was incredibly frightened when so many snakes appeared in front of him. Along with the snakes came a girl, Anjuanzi, the second senior sister of the Wujin Valley. Anjuanzi made a seat for herself and crouched down on the floor, looking at the newly arrived guy. Yan Wenhan noted that another girl who liked cosplay appeared in front of him. He wondered where the festival was held in this place. Another girl appeared next. It was Yang Yuyi, the fourth junior sister of Wujian Valley. She also found a suitable place and sat down on the floor. The guy decided to use his new ability and look up information about girls. Anjuanzi was an ancient spirit Gu. Her age was 23 years old. Stamina, level 3. Strength, level 3. Agility, level 5. Spirit power, level 5. Familiarity score, 0. Her special skill was goo magic, and her attribute was poison. Determined to rebuild her family, Yang Yuyi was the demon empress. Her age was 21 years old, her special skill was energy wall, and her attribute was fury. Her characteristics were unknown. Evaluation, holds a deep grudge after being betrayed and killed in her past life. Yan Wenhan was surprised to see the ancient spirit Gu and the demon empress appear in front of him. Yu Wanning told the guy to ignore the girls who had arrived, because there were many cheerful and friendly juniors in the valley. She couldn't understand why the others hadn't arrived. At the same moment, another guy arrived. The guy looked too dazzling. According to the system, the guy's name was Yuan Yi, and he was a peerless sword emperor, and his age was 22 years old. His special attribute was the Sword of Pain, but his characteristics were unknown. The quintessential male protagonist. Yan Wenhan was dazzled as the male protagonist appeared perfectly in front of him. Even the guy's abilities were different from the others. Yan Wenhan was defeated. The guy immediately walked up to Yan Wenhan and greeted him. He was happy that senior brother had finally appeared. Guy informs that from now on they will share blessings and overcome difficulties together as brothers. He even asks that if something happens to senior brother should tell him and he will come to his aid immediately. Yan Wenhan was surprised because junior brother was a great guy. At this moment, Yu Xin appeared and brought tea, advising master to drink tea better. Yan Wenhan had thought yesterday that Yu Xin had an over-the-top love for anime, but now she seemed the most down-to-earth to the guy. Yu Wanning decided that since everyone was gathered, they should quickly introduce themselves. Those who would make noise, she was going to kick them out. She even declared so that the others wouldn't waste her sleeping time. Everyone took turns to start introducing themselves. And Xuanzi is the reincarnation of the ancient spirit Gu. Yuan Yi is the reincarnated sword emperor. Yang Yuyi was also a reincarnation. Yu Xin is from the cat spirit clan. The guy was surprised that the introductions were incredibly short. In addition, all the introductions of the girls and the guy sounded pretentious to Yan Wenhan. Coughing, the guy excitedly stated that he was a native and was not a reincarnation. After the meeting, Yu Xin decided to show the guy the room. Yesterday, the room wasn't ready yet, so the guy had to sleep in the guest room. However, today they vacated it, and so Yu Xin decided to show the guy to his new room. Looking at the girl's back, he thinks she looks the most normal here. Soon, Yu Xin led in the guy to the luxurious room. Yan Wenhan was even surprised because there was a bedroom, living room, and bathroom. It was personal space and good living conditions for him. While the guy was still surprised and marveled at his new residence, Yu Xin happily announced that they would be living next door to each other from now on. Yan Wenhan thinks that now that they have sorted out their living arrangements, he would like to know what his job will be. After all the pretentious introductions in the morning, Yu Wanning immediately dismissed everyone without saying anything about work because she wanted to sleep. The silly guy even thought that getting paid without doing anything was somehow wrong. Yu Xin remarks with a smile that the guy will be explained his duties soon. After that, she took out her phone and was about to add the guy's contact and include him in the group chat. Even in the magical world, they use an iPhone. Yan Wenhan was greatly surprised to see the name of the group chat. 5 talks, 4 beauties. Today is another day without bloodshed. Yu Xin happily declares that this is the chat room of the master and her personal disciples. She shared that this chat room will have announcements for everyone. In addition, the chat helps to strengthen the bond among colleagues. Lying in bed in the evening, Yan Wenhan tried to think about what had happened to him today. Today, he had met the reincarnation of the ancient spirit Gu Maizhen reborn sword emperor. In addition, he had also met the reincarnation of the demon empress. The guy couldn't believe that everyone was so cool. He was still trying to figure out what the system was doing. The guy was a bit disappointed after all. If the system only showed stats, it was too weak. After all, compared to all the revived entities around him, he was just a passable secondary character. If he was in the outside world, he could do tricks even with his current system. He even imagined that in the outside world, he could work as the head of human resources. Suddenly, the system reported that the guy had collected 5 profiles of people, and now the familiarity system was available to him. The system also told him that when his familiarity points reached 10, the favor system would open up. As the level of favorability increased, the guy would be able to use different abilities of the respective character. He immediately became enthusiastic and sat on the bed. After all, he realized that if he pushed the favor of all the characters to the limit, he could become invincible. He was glad that his system had the potential to grow. Thinking back to all of his co-workers he had met today, the guy was slightly upset because his younger co-workers were all so arrogant despite their different characters. So it was hard for the guy to choose who he should start strengthening ties with first. Not thinking of anything better, he decided that whoever his finger points at first, he will start with that colleague. Through a difficult choice, he got junior sister Yu Xin. He even thought that Yu Xin looked the easiest to get close to, so he decided to maximize his acquaintance with her first. Yan Wenhan jumped up from the bed and walked to the mirror, trying to visualize the moment he met the girl. He decided from something to approach her and ask her if she was lonely at night, but he realized that it was too brazen an option. The guy didn't stop there and chose the option of letting the girl know he was sick. And when she asked him what he was sick with, he'd say he was sick with love for her. The guy fell to the floor and realized what a jerk he was, and that watching short videos on the internet had totally ruined him. Putting all his silly ideas aside, the guy decided to start with a casual greeting, and that maybe after that they could stargaze together. Walking around the dormitory, he soon found Yu Xin's room. The guy knocked on the door of the room and said that it was Yan Wenhan and that he would like to get to know his junior sister better. However, the answer for the guy was only silence. He thought that the girl must be practicing somewhere, although it was already too late. Deciding not to despair, he thought he would try tomorrow, for it had finally dawned on him that meeting a girl at night could be misunderstood. And I guess a guy forgets how old he is. Suddenly, Yang Yuyi, the fourth junior sister, appeared in front of him. The guy was startled by the sudden appearance of the girl. Yang Yuyi, on the other hand, pinned the guy against the wall and clamped his mouth with her hand. The guy couldn't understand what was happening, and the girl was already about to attack him. He was internally crying for help and thinking about the fact that he hadn't earned any familiarity points, but he would already be parting with his life. Yan Wenhan realized that he was just a minor character who hadn't really started his journey and would already meet his untimely demise. When the girl attacked him, he only noted that it was usually at this moment that a memory of a past life or some superpowers were awakened. Yang Yuyi returned late at night with a rabbit in her hands, leaving a bloody trail behind her. After returning to the dormitory and washing her hands, she left her room. Coming out of her room, she saw Yan Wenhan knocking on the door of Yu Xin's room and wanted to meet her. The girl paid attention to the guy's back, and hatred flashed in her eyes because maybe this was the one she had been looking for so long. The girl immediately attacked the guy, and he even closed his eyes in fright. However, at this moment, Yu Xin came out of her room. She asked the girl to wait and not end the guy's life. Yu Xin reminds Yang Yuyi that senior brother is in front of her and that he is a good person. Yang Yuyi immediately let the guy go after realizing who is in front of her. Yan Wenhan immediately burst into tears and his legs shook with fear. However, the guy's suffering did not end there. The girl pressed his hand against the wall with her foot and asked him why his back looked like that of her enemy. Yan Wenhan is crying and doesn't realize what's going on himself because he has the most ordinary average back. Yang Yuyi wonders if the guy is reincarnation. However, Yan Wenhan points out that he even said that he is a native and is not a reincarnation. The girl continues to interrogate the guy, wondering why he appeared in the valley and if he wants to kill them again. The guy is already freaking out too, since he doesn't know anything himself. Yu Xin also intervened and pointed out that there was some misunderstanding. Yan Wenhan himself would like to know why he was lured into the valley, but Yang Yuyi should ask Master about it. Yu Xin asks the girl to let senior brother go, as she has already noticed that the guy is choking. However, Yang Yuyi is persistent and notices that he used a similar trick last time to fool her former master. Therefore, the girl thinks that the guy might be faking it this time too. She couldn't believe the coincidences. Yan Wenhan made a pitying face and asked the girl what made her think he came to this place of his own free will. The guy admitted that he was just looking for a job and was tricked into coming to this place, and the contract was also indefinite, so he should complain. Yu Xin even admits that when they were flying on the scooter to the dormitory, senior brother jumped off the scooter and tried to escape, and that he really wasn't here of his own free will. Therefore, she informs that if sister wants to say something, then let her say it. However, even now, Yang Yuyi is not relenting and informs the guy that she will keep a close eye on him from now on, and if the guy behaves suspiciously again, he will be unfortunate. After she let him go and left, the guy still continued to stare after her and didn't understand why the girl reacted to him like that. Only after that did the guy turn to the system's information about Yang Yuyi. Familiarity points increased by 1 point. And also, the most important thing, Yang Yuyi searches for his nemesis every day. Yan Wenhan realized that the girl considered him as her enemy. Now he also understood why the girl was so emotional. He could not yet understand what the girl had gone through if she was always looking for her enemy. Yu Xin carefully inquired if senior brother was injured. The guy touched his neck with his hand, and Yu Xin immediately thought that the guy had a wound on his neck. She approached him to examine his neck, and he immediately turned red. The girl asked the guy to come into her bedroom where she would give him a healing potion. Yan Wenhan was shocked to hear such words from a girl and at such a time. The words about him going into the girl's bedroom kept appearing in his mind over and over again. He even thought that maybe the girl would sit down on the bed and tell him that her foot was hurt too, and then take off her shoes and ask the guy to put some ointment on her foot. He was all transfixed at such a sudden invitation to come to the girl's room, as he had never had such a thing before. Like an angel flying to the call of his goddess, the guy was going to go to her room. I wonder what other disappointments await this guy who is not discouraged even in a situation where he is a prisoner and may not even get paid. After a while, Yu Xin looked out of her room and wondered why the guy was still standing outside the door and not entering the room. The door opened and revealed a room that was shining and scented with the fragrance of flowers to the guy. This was the most important event in the guy's life. He would finally get into the girl's room. He was very nervous going into the girl's room for the first time and pondered on how he could look more experienced in this matter. He had only seen girls' rooms in comic books before. He pondered on whether the girl's room would be pink-colored and delicate. The guy pondered about it since he felt that the room reflected the character of the person. Yu Xin was perplexed as to what the guy was pondering about and why he was standing by the door to her room for so long without going inside. Taking a deep breath, he gained determination and was about to find out what it was like to be in the girl's room. However, once he stepped outside the threshold of the door to the girl's room, he was incredibly surprised. The first thing he saw was blood dripper, then he saw double-headed fork. But the thing that shocked him the most was when he saw the 1,000-swing mechanical umbrella. He couldn't believe that this was a girl's room. The guy was afraid for his life again, for he thought he might be subjected to all sorts of torture. At this moment, his legs were so weak that he didn't even believe that he would be able to escape from this place. However, taking one of her items in her hands, the girl didn't understand why senior brother was laughing at her. After all, she was just collecting such items. Yan Wenhan could not believe that a normal person would collect instruments of torture. Besides, all these things were piled up in a pile, not lying down like one would normally do when collecting something. The guy was disappointed as he realized that he was actually the only normal one in his new surroundings. Suddenly, the girl reached under the bed to get something out of there. She even asked her senior brother to wait for a while. The guy was already dreaming that now the sister would tell her brother that she was stuck. However, it was only his dreams, as she soon pulled out a wooden box from under the bed. When the girl opened the wooden box, the guy was faced with some very interesting gadgets that scared him. He immediately wondered why the girl was putting it all together. Not the least bit embarrassed, Yu Xin confesses that if she gets the opportunity in the future, she would like to honor her father. Yan Wenhan naively assumed that the girl's father actually liked collecting such things, and the girl was collecting all these things for her father. At this moment, he suddenly saw a message from the system that Yu Xin didn't have a very good relationship with her father. Now he realized that his earlier assumption had turned out to be wrong. The guy was wary and then remembered that the girl just now was acting strangely. He even assumed that there were sinister traits in junior sister's character. The girl then told the guy to sit down. After all, she was going to give him medicine. Yu Xin tried to justify the fourth junior sister by telling him that the girl was actually kind. She notices that fourth junior sister had a very hard time in her past life, so she asked that the guy be patient for a while. In addition, she notices that if a guy wants to blame someone, He should blame the nasty person who betrayed young Yuyi. Suddenly, the girl squeezed the medicine bottle so tightly that the bottle shattered into shards. Yu Xin even declared that if that vile man had been reborn, then it was necessary to kill him. The guy was startled to notice that although the girl had spoken politely, she had scared him incredibly. He decides to inquire if that nasty man is Yang Yuyi's ex-boyfriend. Yu Xin then tells him that the girl was a demon empress who was busy with her duties every day, so she had no time for love. The guy realized that that man was just an enemy of the girl, not a lover. Yu Xin notes with a smile that senior brother was lucky, as he only received a small superficial wound, but his predecessor was hurt worse. She even inquired if anything hurt the guy, but he decided to say that he didn't have any pain. He began to guess what the girl had originally meant to say. The poor guy was terrified, for he had been tricked into joining some sinister cult. Soon the girl put a cat-shaped adhesive bandage around the guy's neck. Then the guy bowed to the girl, asked her to get a good rest, wished her good night, and left her room. Meanwhile, a drunk standing nearby was happy that another day of unity and friendship had passed. After a while, Yan Wenhan went to the forest. He realized that the place and time was too dangerous. Even the girl he thought was soft and sweet turned out to be so cruel. He didn't give up his attempts to escape from this place. He wanted to get out of this place as soon as possible. However, his hands were shaking as he remembered that he was entitled to 20,000 yuan a month here, plus insurance. Standing in the forest, the guy almost cried. He was trying to figure out if he was ready to lead the life he had now. He lived with people who were either humans or demons, who could do whatever they wanted to him at any time. Yan Wenhan tried to cheer himself up with words and wasn't going to give up so easily. However, at the same moment, he remembered that even Yu Xin had many torture tools in his room. The guy was already crying in his heart, because what if the girl decided to use all these torture implements on him? Yan Wenhan realized that one could find riches in a dangerous place, but to enjoy it, one had to preserve one's life. The guy remembered that he had his ID card all this time, which only meant one thing, that it was as if God himself was telling him to escape from the devilish place. He decided to run away, and he didn't care about his belongings or his contract with the valley because he had no other choice. Breaking the contract was a serious decision, but he didn't realize what else could be done in such a situation. He kept running and running, while suspicious black crows circled around him. The guy couldn't understand what was really going on. After all, he had been running for so long, and yet he was still in the same place. In the distance, he could see the Wujiang city district, and the lights of high-rise buildings were also visible. However, he felt as if he was hitting a ghostly wall. The guy refused to believe such a thing and was unwilling to give up, so he decided to keep running. After a while, he still stopped and sat down, complaining that he was incredibly tired. He began to complain about how he didn't want to be trapped for the rest of his life, only now realizing that there was something wrong with his plan to escape. At that moment, a small scorpion-like monster climbed on top of him. The guy, angry for his life, immediately tossed the monster aside. However, this was a big mistake, because at the same moment, the parent of the offended little scorpion, a giant-sized scorpion-like monster, came out to the guy. At the same second, the guy fell to the ground and lost consciousness. And Zhuanzi then came out from behind the trees, leaving the giant monster puzzled. The girl crouched next to the guy, noticing that the master had said that they shouldn't let the guy escape. She told the monster to carry the guy back. After a while, Yan Wenhan opened his eyes, being outside the dormitory, next to Yu Wanning. After opening his eyes, he thought about the fact that he should have been dead a long time ago. Seeing Yu Wanning beside him, the guy did not continue to tolerate things as they were and declared that he wanted to quit. Yu Wanning immediately told the guy that they are a state-owned enterprise that provides a guarantee of wealth, so the guy will be able to go his whole life without worrying about subsistence. Yu Wanning wonders why the guy wants to quit then. She doesn't care about the guy's requests. She declares that she refuses to let him quit since the guy will have to work at this place for the rest of his life. Until she lets him quit, he will never leave the valley. Yu Wanning states that there will only be a small punishment for him this time. However, she points out that the guy wanted to escape, which means she has 10,000 ways to make the guy regret that decision. Turning around, the guy saw all of his new co-workers or family. They all seemed like incredibly dangerous thugs, ready to start torturing and bullying the guy at any second. The guy was scared beyond belief that he was about to be tortured. Yu Wanning states that everyone in this is friendly and nice, so she asks that the guy not upset them. At this point, the system reported his progress in getting to know Yu Wanning and that she shouldn't be pissed off. The guy had already convinced himself of this in practice. On March 23rd, the guy sat at his desk and wrote in his diary that he had been forced to work for another week, as a result of which he discovered that he had no acting ability whatsoever. He also noted that the third junior brother was a true king. 2 days ago, Yuan Yi was performing his training by practicing with his sword on the roof of the dormitory. However, his training was so noisy that Yu Wanning yelled at him as he was disturbing her. Yan Wenhan informed the guy about the words of the master, who told him to keep quiet and not to disturb others during his afternoon nap. Yan Wenhan even mentioned that if Yuan Yi did not follow this decision, Yu Wanning was going to go up to his roof. Yuan Yi immediately resented such a decision by the master, but immediately jumped off the roof. He apologized to his senior brother. He said that he tried his best to hold back, so he only used 1/10 of his strength. Yuan Yi began to talk about how the most important thing in practicing fencing was perseverance. In order to make progress, one could not back down. However, Yan Wenhan only became indignant because of the words he heard, that his brother was only using 1/10 of his strength. Yan Wenhan thought that they were all halfway to becoming gods. There was simply no one in the world that they couldn't handle. Suddenly, Yuan Yi declared that he should challenge his senior brother. Yan Wenhan was well aware of his position in the current hierarchy. He immediately revealed that he was just a weak person who had studied construction. He could assemble a house from bricks, but he couldn't prove himself worthy in fights. Yuan Yi couldn't believe it, because in his past life, all of his senior brothers were first apprentices of the master. He thought that since the master had named Yan Wenhan's senior brother, he was definitely capable. Yan Wenhan decided to even show off the books, again noting that he had studied construction and that it was his specialty. Looking at the books his senior brother showed him, the guy was incredibly surprised. Yan Wenhan tried to explain that he had gotten into this place apparently to help everyone else overcome a crisis in their development. Yan Wenhan said that there was only one word to explain his position: babysitter. Yuan Yi began to put all the items of Yan Wenhan's duties together in his head. Taking care of everyone, dealing with all problems, abilities maximized. The guy was incredibly happy because senior brother was a great person he should learn a bossy but humble demeanor from. He even stated that he was still too young, so he was going to behave the same way as senior brother from now on. At this moment, the system reported the guy's progress in understanding Yuan Yi. The system also told that Yuan Yi was a true genius, but except for swordsmanship, the guy had almost no life experience. Yan Wenhan was shocked at what he saw, for the guy in front of him was like a blank slate. He even assumed that the guy had been locked up in a temple in his past life, forcing him to practice swordsmanship until his death. Yan Wenhan remarked that the guy had gotten it right, that you should behave with restraint, not letting people guess your true abilities. He was about to point out that it could help at a critical moment. However, the guy misinterpreted his words and thought that restraint allowed one to pretend to be invisible. Yan Wenhan was slightly surprised after hearing the guy's words. He thought that perhaps the minds of all male protagonists were incredibly strange. Yuan Yi wondered if this was what was meant in Long Aotian's novels. He felt that senior brother's words had really enlightened him. Long Aotian is a Chinese figurative name for an unrealistically lucky and capable character. Yan Wenhan immediately realized that the protagonist was really quite a strange guy. He was just a random co-worker of such great people, who could float in the clouds and fly swords. However, Yuan Yi still listened to his instructions. Yan Wenhan now couldn't understand whether the world had gone mad or he himself had gone mad. After that, Yuan Yi summoned the Abyss Vault and put the journal with the precepts he had just written down there. He cheerfully inquired if it was actually incredibly fun to be in the company of people. The guy admitted that he had never left the valley after being reborn, but he would really like to see the outside world. Yuan Yi even asked if senior brother could accompany him to the outside world. Yan Wenhan thought about the guy's words. After pondering, he noticed that it seemed that the Immortal Cultivators Association had strict requirements for reborn like Yuan Yi, as they might accidentally use their skills in the human world. Looking at Yuan Yi, who was waving his sword in front of him, Yan Wenhan inwardly complained. After all, the swordsman in front of him, who was only using a tenth of his strength, was capable of doing incredible things. That was why Yan Wenhan was pondering whether such gifted ones could be controlled. Yuan Yi grabbed his senior brother's hand and asked if he would help him. He admitted that he had lived in the Middle Ages and had never seen modern times, so if things continued like this, he would be considered a redneck. Yan Wenhan absolutely could not understand why he had to put up with Yuan Yi's flirtatiousness. After a moment, it reached him that it was probably because of the protagonist halo that emanated from Yuan Yi. Back in the present, as he wrote all of this down in his diary, he pondered over whether or not it was worth bringing Yuan Yi to the outside world. Guy understood that such an act could increase familiarity, points, and Yuan Yi's favor towards him. Guy decided not to bother and shift this burden to someone else. He decided to ask Master about everything when he asked for a vacation tomorrow. He had missed a month and needed to prepare for his diploma defense. If Yu Wanning agreed to his terms, then a contract would then need to be made with Yuan Yi so that Yuan Yi could not use his abilities in the outside world and would obey him in everything. In the morning, Yu Wanning sat on a chair and rested while Yu Xin walked around her. Yu Wanning's patience was already running out, so she asked the girl if what she was doing was ready. Not stopping the bottle in the slightest, Yu Xin pointed out that it needed a good shake for at least 5 minutes to foam up. Just at that moment, Yan Wenhan knocked on the door. He said that he wanted to take a short break to go to his diploma defense. Master told the guy to enter the room. Yu Xin had just finished making a cocktail and placed it on the table. The guy was surprised at how incredible Yu Xin's bartending skills were. Watching Yu Wanning sipping her cocktail with Yu Xin standing next to her, the guy noticed that sometimes their company's staffing system resembled a queen and a group of her loyal followers. Yu Wanning then handed the guy a sheet, asking him to fill it out. After looking at the form, he noticed that it actually looked quite formal, which pleased the guy for the first time. However, the guy was too naive, because at this moment in his thoughts, Yu Wanning noted that this was the first time someone had taken the initiative to notify her that they wanted a vacation. Therefore, this is the first time the vacation request form is used. After filling out the necessary papers, the guy gave them to Yu Wanning and also asked her permission to take Yuan Yi into the city with him. Yan Wenhan noted that Yuan Yi had confessed to him that he had never left the valley and that he wanted to see the world with his own eyes. However, at this moment, Yu Wanning's face instantly turned serious. Yu Xin also had a change in her face. The guy instantly noticed that Yu Xin and Yu Wanning's faces became serious, so he thought about the fact that it looked like Yuan Yi had already had some unpleasant incidents. However, after thinking about it for a bit, Yu Wanning held out a sheet for the guy to also fill out a form for Yuan Yi. Yan Wenhan was even disappointed because he had expected to at least be warned of any problems or told about precautions. Suddenly, Yu Wanning said that Yu Xin's father had sent her a message. The girl was surprised to hear about it. Yu Wanning also added that if the girl went home, she should take senior brother with her. The guy immediately remembered that this is the same father who likes all kinds of torture. Yu Xin's father said that he might be dying, so he asked his daughter to come home to see him. Yu Xin couldn't hide her emotions. It was obvious that she was upset. Despite what she had said earlier, Yu Wanning said that it would be up to Yu Xin to decide whether or not to go. She noted that if Yu Xin didn't want to go, there was nothing her family could do about it. Yu Xin tried to think about her current situation. The aura around her at this moment was quite depressing. After just a moment, the girl regained her fighting spirit and declared that she wanted to find her mom, so she would go home together with senior brother. With great reluctance, the guy agreed to go with the girl to her home. Just at this moment, Yu Wanning took out another piece of paper. She told the guy to sign a pamphlet about the responsibility of guardians. If anything happened during the trip, Yan Wenhan should take responsibility. Looking at the responsibility pamphlet he had to sign, the guy felt like a youngster on a pirate ship. After a while, the babysitter, who is also known as Yan Wenhan, arrived with Yuan Yi and Yu Xin at the train station. Yuan Yi calmly walked through the turnstile of the train station and asked the others to hurry up. Carrying his suitcase, Yan Wenhan was angry and surprised at the same time because earlier Yuan Yi had told him that he had never left the valley. He didn't understand how the guy had such a confident demeanor back then. At a glance, Yan Wenhan could tell that the guy had a lot of experience. However, Yuan Yi asked that senior brother didn't think he was so smart because he had just studied the process of traveling on a high-speed train on the internet. Why at this moment Yuan Yi's face was covered in cold sweat. Yan Wenhan also felt that he couldn't trust the guy in this matter. Afterward, they took the train and traveled to the city. It was still not clear what the guy was doing here in the first place. It has already been a long time, and he only showed one moment as a babysitter with Yuan Yi, and now he is already going to the outside world. What kind of thing is Yuan Yi going to do again? It seems Yan Wenhan will definitely be left without vacation and money after what Yuan Yi and Yu Xin will do during his trip, as the losses will be enormous. At night, the train carrying Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin was still traveling on its route. Yan Wenhan slept the whole way, while Yu Xin was still worried about the upcoming meeting. The system had told him earlier that Yu Xin actually hated her father, so the guy couldn't fully understand the girl's feelings. In the end, he decided that since the girl's father was seriously ill, perhaps the bloodline was making the girl worry about her father. However, he pulled the sleep blindfold over his eyes again, deciding that the girl would tell him everything herself if she had the desire to talk about it. Yu Xin continued to stare out the train window with sadness in her eyes, immersed in her thoughts. In the morning, the train arrived safely at the station, and Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin left the train. Yuan Yi complained to senior brother that junior sister hadn't slept a wink all night and was staring sadly out the window. Yan Wenhan tried to keep the guy's voice down, telling him that there was trouble in the girl's family. So he asked the guy to leave the girl alone and not to pester her on this trip, as if the girl with her big cat ears could not hear them. Yuan Yi sadly remarked that he had always thought that Yu Xin was the master's adopted daughter. He even admitted that he had been in their so-called company for over a decade, but he had never seen Yu Xin leave the valley. Such news made even Yan Wenhan surprised. Yuan Yi had long believed that the girl was an orphan. Yan Wenhan had a rich imagination, so after remembering that Yu Xin had run away from her father but mentioned that she wanted to find her mother, he made up a story. He thought that a story about an abusive tyrant father from whom his wife first left and then his daughter ran away made sense. Yuan Yi immediately called out to the guy, who immediately reacted with obvious displeasure at being mentioned again. The guy pointed at the car, and then Yan Wenhan himself took a look, and his jaw almost dropped to the floor when he saw the huge number of expensive cars. Yan Wenhan, as an ordinary person, was shocked by the accumulation of so many expensive cars, even thinking that it looked like a movie was being filmed in this place. The other people around were also wondering who so many cars had come for. They thought that with such pomp they must be meeting a celebrity or one of the richest people in the country. Yan Wenhan noticed that there were no cameras around, which meant that this was not a movie shoot. This made him even more curious to know who such a cortege of cars had come for. Suddenly, people approached them, and the man greeted Yu Xin, calling her second mistress, and then invited her to get into the car. The man turned out to be a butler. He relayed the request of the older mistress who wanted to talk to Yu Xin. Yan Wenhan couldn't hide his surprise because it appeared that all these cars had come to meet Yu Xin. Besides, since it was the first time they had come to visit in a long time, no one wanted to refuse the meeting. The butler's aura abruptly changed before he asked Yu Xin not to keep the older mistress waiting for too long. Yu Xin informed Yan Wenhan and Yuan Yi that she had business at home and that she would contact them later. Yan Wenhan still didn't fully understand what was going on, but didn't stop the girl agreeing with her decision. However, Yuan Yi, who was clearly taller than the butler, intervened. He asked if the girl needed help. The girl only smiled, seeing the guy's concern. She asked Yuan Yi and Yan Wenhan not to worry about her because she was fine. After that, Yu Xin went to one of the cars where her older sister was sitting. The older sister was the chairman of Tamal Technology Group, and her name was Yu Qian. Yu Qian informed her sister that their father had been attacked, so he was in the process of dying. The father wanted to see with his youngest daughter, so Yu Qian asked her sister to come back with her. Yu Xin didn't fight back and show her combative nature this time, but obediently got into the car. Yuan Yi was able to catch that senior brother seemed to have noticed a surprising feature as well. Yan Wenhan sighed regretfully and noticed that Yu Xin didn't seem to have the best relationship with family. As the girl and the motorcade of cars headed home, the guy marveled at the fact that Yu Xin was the daughter of such a rich man. He couldn't even think that her family was so rich. Besides, in his mind, such families usually represented a tangle of intrigue. The situation made Yuan Yi share a story from her life with Yan Wenhan. In his past life, Yuan Yi had a cousin whose name was Xiao Yang. His engagement was cancelled because he couldn't develop in cultivation, which was a big trouble for the family. Yan Wenhan agreed with him, thinking that Yu Xin was worrying too much because of family problems while they were on the train last night. The guys in the vicinity of Yan Wenhan were still discussing what was happening. One guy pointed out that the chairman of Tmall Technology Group was sitting in the car. Another guy was now not surprised that there was such a pompous motorcade. Tmall Technology Group is the leader of the technology industry with a market value of over $100 billion. Yan Wenhan was surprised because Tmall Technology Group was the same famous corporation that he had heard of many times before. At the same moment, a system window popped up, where Yu Xin's information also added that she was the sister of the chairman of the Tmall Technology Group. He was distracted from his musings by Yuan Yi, who was curious about where they were going next. Yan Wenhan needed to deal with his study matters first, so he suggested the guy stay at a nearby hotel as it was inexpensive and had good food. However, Yan Wenhan was wary of leaving the guy alone. He wondered that if the guy represented the image of the protagonist, he could surely have the hidden identity of a rich young gentleman. Yuan Yi turned on fool mode, stating that he was from another time, so other than wielding a sword, he had no other skills. The guy even moved closer to Yan Wenhan, informing him that he was in such a hurry that he had completely forgotten to take the money. Only now did Yan Wenhan notice that the guy was incredibly destitute, and all he had brought with him was his ID card. He hadn't even brought his suitcase with him, much less money. Yan Wenhan realized that there was a reason he suspected that the guy was somehow moving around easily. In his heart of hearts, he was just furious, since the guy didn't even bring any money with him. A scheme immediately appeared in Yan Wenhan's mind that Yuan Yi was without money and incredibly dangerous, so Yan Wenhan had to pay for a hotel, and a hotel was incredibly expensive. He even dared to remember that he had never been paid his salary. Yuan Yi didn't understand what salary senior brother was talking about. Yan Wenhan tried to be more persistent to find out if the guy had received anything from the company, but he only looked at him perplexed. At this moment, Yan Wenhan realized that the system was right when it said that salary were not paid on time. Yuan Yi immediately changed his face, informing him that surely the salary had already been transferred and today was a day off, so the accountant was not working. Yuan Yi read the situation perfectly, that it seems the foreman had once again cheated the man and not pay the salary. He thought that the master was incorrigible in this regard. He was only allowing the master to be scolded because they were not in the valley right now. However, Yan Wenhan once again questioned whether this was really the case, as the guy said. Yuan Yi, covered in cold sweat, continued to assure the guy that it was. Realizing that there was no way to solve the situation now, Yan Wenhan thought of calling a friend from the university. He was going to ask her if she had a free place for the guy to stay. The girl quickly agreed to the guy's request. After receiving the girl's consent to stay with her, the guys soon arrived at the university dormitory building. The girls couldn't take their eyes off Yuan Yi, trying to figure out what kind of handsome man had appeared in front of them. Yuan Yi noticed that he was attracting the attention of the girls. He even winked at the two girls who were looking at him in love. Yan Wenhan was extremely unhappy with something like this, because he had seen in person how the protagonist had his privileges. He even had to suspend Yuan Yi from flirting with the girls. Once inside the dormitory and walking down the hallway, Yan Wenhan began to tell the guy that he had talked to his neighbors. As it turned out, someone was just about to go for an internship, so the dorm room was vacant. So Yan Wenhan offered the guy to live with him on campus for the duration of his vacation. Yuan Yi was incredibly excited to hear such news. He had never lived in a dormitory, so he wanted to experience the life of a student. The clock was already showing 5 a.m., and Yan Wenhan was still sleeping, while Yuan Yi was using magic outside of Hogwarts. He even started to wake up senior brother, since it was time for them to get up to go to training. After opening one eye and looking at the time on his phone, the guy didn't understand why Yuan Yi woke him up so early. However, Yuan Yi thought otherwise, because 5 o'clock in the morning was already late, as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was most pure at 4 o'clock in the morning. The still sleepy Yan Wenhan stroked the guy's head and asked him to be a good boy and go to bed. In addition, he reminded the lad that it was forbidden to use abilities outside the valley. Yuan Yi was a diligent student, noticing that if he didn't practice constantly, it meant he would regress. He began to complain that he was regressing a little every day while others were improving at the same time. Because of these missed training sessions, he believed that he couldn't become the best in the world. Yan Wenhan was well aware that Yuan Yi would not lose a single bit of strength. He even told Yuan Yi to train in his sleep, but he kept pestering him. Yuan Yi was like an annoying mosquito that prevented him from sleeping at night. Yan Wenhan was furious that the guy kept bothering him. 15 minutes later, Yan Wenhan gave up under the guy's onslaught. He thought the guy was like a puppy who woke up early in the morning and asked to go outside to use the bathroom, squatting beside his bed and poking his master with his paw. Since the guy needed training so badly, Yan Wenhan decided to take him to a boxing class. Yuan Yi was unbelievable that senior brother gave in and let him train. Soon they walked down to the outdoor basketball court. Yan Wenhan was literally crying, not realizing where he had gone wrong in his previous life. In this life, not only did he sign an illegal labor contract, along with a delayed salary, but he had to get up at the crack of dawn to take Yuan Yi to practice. Yuan Yi was overjoyed to call senior brother so kind as he agreed to let him train. Yan Wenhan was still dealing with the realization of his life, not realizing what good all this torment would do except for the psychological trauma. At this point, the system decided to help the guy find meaning in his actions. The system made it clear that as long as the guy practiced with Yuan Yi, he would be considered his good friend. In addition, Yuan Yi's favor towards him increased by 0.5. The system also said that Yuan Yi had to train every morning or he would start to think that he was regressing. The only thing the guy was happy about was that Yuan Yi's favor function had turned on. The guy was curious if he would be able to use 0.5% of Yuan Yi's skills in this case. The system confirmed this claim. Yan Wenhan immediately ran up to Yuan Yi, informing him that he would train with him every day from now on, and that he would accompany him wherever he went. Yuan Yi was surprised, but thought that senior brother had just suddenly gained enlightenment. After practicing enough, they went to canteen number 2. Yan Wenhan had an appetite and asked his auntie to put some pork stew on his plate. He thought that when happy events happened, people felt elated. He even thought that when he returned to the valley, he would get himself a sword so that he could fully experience the joy of becoming a great swordsman. The guy looked at the woman expectantly, waiting for his food. The woman scooped it up and watched the guy's admiring gaze. The woman then forcefully splashed the pork stew onto his tray. Yan Wenhan was shocked, for his pork stew had turned into no good. He even asked the woman if it was edible, calling her auntie. The woman was extremely displeased, and she was obviously angry that the guy called her auntie. She told him to move and not to hold up the line. The saddened guy silently moved away, clearing the queue. Following him came Yuan Yi, who called the woman little sister and said he wanted to eat. The woman blushed, thinking she was past her age, but continued to pile pork stew on the guy's plate. She wondered if the guy had enough, and if he wanted more, he should tell her. She thought the guy was too skinny, so he should eat better. Yan Wenhan was disgusted to even listen to the conversation between the woman and Yuan Yi. However, in the next moment, Yuan Yi put his finger on the woman's lips, asking her to speak so badly about herself anymore. He also called the woman little sister once again. At this moment, even Yan Wenhan couldn't contain his emotions and seemed to be petrified by the whole situation. Looking at Yuan Yi's plate, which had a mountain of pork stew on it, Yan Wenhan was extremely dissatisfied. He felt ill at ease around the guy who always gave off the cursed aura of the protagonist. Yuan Yi was the perfect guy who was obviously loved by all the mums. Yan Wenhan was in floods of tears, realizing once again that he was just an ordinary working man on the sidelines. He couldn't sleep as much as he wanted, eat what he wanted, or wear cool clothes. His whole life was just bleak compared to the protagonist. Happy Yuan Yi, seeing the upset senior brother, even offered him some pork stew from his plate. Soon, a satisfied Yan Wenhan left the canteen together with Yuan Yi. This was the first time he was able to eat so much in the canteen. Now he thought it was great to be the brother of the protagonist, as Yuan Yi had given him some of his portion of pork stew and even offered to ask his little sister for more if senior brother still wasn't full. After that, Yan Wenhan informed the guy that the guy could go shopping in the afternoon. He had a diploma defense this Friday, so he couldn't accompany the guy. Yuan Yi did not hold back in the slightest, immediately extended his hand and informed him that in human society one cannot do without money. Yan Wenhan was still a complete fool, as he thought that since the guy didn't have any cash with him, he should have paid for his purchases with his cell phone. However, Yuan Yi was not a stupid guy at all, so he recalled that the master had said that Yan Wenhan was his babysitter and that he could ask him for anything. Finally, holding back his sadness, Yan Wenhan handed the guy 100 yuan. This was a lot of money for him. Yuan Yi thanked senior brother even for such an amount of money. As soon as Yan Wenhan stepped back, the guy immediately called a cab through his phone, which pulled up rather quickly. As soon as he jumped into the cab, the driver greeted him, because it was an unusual cab. The driver immediately and clearly told him where the guy was going. The total cost of the trip was 70 yuan. The guy got into the cab like a king, saying that he would pay in cash. The cab went to its destination before the foolish Yan Wenhan realized that he had been cheated out of his money. Not only did he not get paid by the so-called company, but he also gave away his hard-earned 100 yuan to Yuan Yi. Nowadays, you should carefully read any document you sign. And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you would like to see a sequel, please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your wishes in the comments. You can also subscribe to Telegram to know about new videos. Bye everybody.